Hi, my name is Kaitlin. I am one of the two designers behind Morning Siren, which is our fashion brand, handmade in Seattle. And we are currently in two local shops, which is Sassafras and Momo in Seattle. And because of all of this, the pandemic and being at home a lot, we have actually been able to improve our online shop, which we didn't take the time to before because we were so involved with, local pop-ups and supporting the local shops. But now we've had this weird time where we have so much time at home that we can try to devote more time to online. And like you said, what are the trends for the future? And I'm thinking a lot of it will have to be focused on marketing to an online platform. So we have been thinking about that recently.
Oh, for sure. And so with your brand specifically, you've been in, it sounds like two local stockists carrying your stuff. Do you do wholesaling or is it mostly custom pieces?
It's mostly custom to local designers, but we're looking to expand our wholesale since we have made more progress on our online presence during
Okay.
this time.
So you've been able to maintain production during this time, or have you had to cease entirely and pivot?
It's interesting. At first, we were playing with a lot of new pieces, but then, we've got so much information about masks needing to be produced. And that's like the big word for all the local fashion designers is having to make masks, whether it be donated or selling it at minimal costs. So we've made about maybe almost 700 masks, just the two of us as designers. And all of it we've actually donated. If we have it on our online website, we actually just have people pay the shipping costs. But if people do have can afford to pay, we have a donation button where they can donate to our donation fund, which is going to hospitals and food banks and resource centers. So unfortunately, we had to take a little pause on the creative aspect of our clothing because we wanted to make sure that this resource was available to everybody, not only our friends, but to the people who are on the front lines.
Well, absolutely. That's actually very, very cool. And a lot of brands, as you mentioned, are doing face masks and other forms of personal protective equipment. And donations is really huge. There's a number of, I think this is a story that needs to be told in some depth. And just to be upfront about it, you guys are on very slim margins to begin with. And yet this really amazing heart of generosity and
Yeah.
reaching out and responding and not letting something like minimal orders keep you down, and it doesn't detract you from being generous, and it's very, very important.
Right. It's something part of our brand that we want to make sure, even though it is a tough time, we want to find a way to do it. And our donations have been so so overwhelming that we're just surprised how much people care about these kinds of things and supporting local businesses.
Well, it doesn't surprise me at all. I've been here long enough to know that's not at all surprising. That's very, very, very good news. And
nice. Yeah, we're kind of a new brand. We started in 2017 around, and so we're fairly new to, the fashion world, I guess.
well, that kind of leads me to the segue. I wanted to take a look back and ask you sort of at what point did fashion really enter your journey? When did you start developing an awareness of it, or when did you start actually applying maybe an artistic sensibility to the world of fashion?
Yeah, my great journey has been like all over the place. I guess my first love in terms of arts has been music. So after college, I actually joined a band and we like traveled the world and whatnot. And throughout that, I learned I love music, but then there was something else that was kind of like, maybe I should invest in other artistic venues that I've always loved. So while I was, touring around and like working part-time gigs, I was at a hair salon, and I also love hair. As you can see, I love playing with different colors. And when I was at the salon is actually where I started making clothes for myself. And that's when people at the salon were like, wow, your stuff looks so good. And they were surprised that I made it. And they really like were pushing me to check out Sassafras, which coincidentally was right next door to the salon. So that's how I found out about Amy. And so that just kind of happened naturally. I wasn't expecting anything from it really. I started sewing like the year before that with like a mini sewing machine that my roommate had, and then it kind of just evolved. So I take it as a good sign that I'm going in the right direction. So I just kind of go with the flow.
Well, it is true what they say about business. It's all about location, location, location.
Yeah.
And the good news is you're surrounded by a lot of wonderful people, and there's a ton of great mentorship and a lot of help. And on the topic of generosities, it's so very encouraging that so many people are generous with their time and willing to answer questions, especially as you're just getting started.
Right.
Um,
The women in the community have been so supportive, which I wasn't expecting going into it. I thought fashion was going to be where people are cutthroat and competitive, but at this local level here in Seattle, it's been so loving and supportive, and you kind of meet everybody in that world, and they're all wanting to help each other, because the more we promote each other, then the more we grow. So that's what kind of kept me in this industry.
Oh, for sure. If you're going to start fashion anywhere, Seattle's a great place to do it for a lot of reasons. And what you described is incredibly beneficial. And, Los Angeles and New York have their own cultures, and it's still very, very about the hustle, and it is still very cutthroat. And there's a very special unifying vibe to what we see here in Seattle. And I don't just mean Seattle, the city, but I mean like the greater Northwest, and
Right, like Oregon and whatnot.
yeah, Portland, Vancouver, British Columbia, incredible communities there for the arts, specifically for fashion as well. And even through Idaho and Montana, you'd be surprised. It's a growing market. So it's really cool to see things, starting to spread out. And I think digital plays a really big part in that. And one of the big lessons we can learn now with digital is it is the way of the future. And in a sense, it always has been. But it'll be even more important for you now as you look at sharing your brand story, not just developing a website, but creating those touch points where people can interact with you if they need to get their measurements taken, if they're inquiring about colors and sizes and so forth. But this isn't about me. To get back to you, my apologies. Editorializing a bit.
I'm learning too.
Well, yeah, don't get me started. In any case, so getting back to your story, so it sounds like you started your business while you were still working at the salon, and that was both probably around the 2017 mark?
Yes. Yep. That's when, I guess, beginning of 2016, I think maybe that was when I met Amy. And then finally we decided to establish a brand in mid 2017.
Okay, very cool. What is it that excites you, and what are you most passionate about with this new venture that you're on?
Sure. I think for me, it's actually how not only the community here, but also just our friends are so excited to wear our items, and how inclusive we are, I guess, in terms of the different fits and things, and trying it to make it comfortable and functional for them. We try to get our feedback from the people we know, and also just it being a creative outlet with our hand painting. That's another way that I can bridge all the things that I love, is friends, our community, and also just a little creative outlet with creating our textiles. So I think there has been this nice balance of all the things I enjoy in life through our fashion brand.
Okay, very cool. And so, on the topic of textiles and custom prints, do you do all of that locally, or is this something that you're able to outsource?
I actually do. It's all hand painting. So it's something we do ourselves. It's only for certain special pieces that we'll do this for. And if I'm really inspired, it's just, if I have an idea, then I'm going to just go with it. And in a lot of times my paintings are reflected upon something in the world. So for example, one piece I had was about, I'm from Hawaii, and so one piece I had was about an endangered species, and I kind of made it a tropical watercolor brush theme with the bird as the main portion of it. It kind of looks like a flamingo, so I thought it would be a cute pattern. And so I made little stamps that I would use to layer on the textile, along with sponge work and that created a really cool vibe, and also just some awareness about certain things that I just find interesting.
Okay, very cool. And as far as the textile itself, is this cotton? Is this jersey? Do you guys use silks, bamboo, tencel?
It is a mix. We are heading towards a more sustainable fashion, so we have been choosing tencel and bamboo recently, and we would like to become as sustainable and eco-conscious as possible moving forward with our brand. And finding those resources can be tricky to source, because some materials, they're just, trying to buy them online is hard because you can't feel them, you can't like crinkle them to see how they wear. And so we've slowly been finding our favorites, but yes, tencel has been a hot topic for us.
And so you're hand applying paint to it. So is it watercolor or is it acrylic?
It's actually a fabric paint. So we actually heat set the fabric paint so that you can wash and wear it. Yeah, so we've been using our specific fabric paint for quite a while now.
It's very cool. And so when you go through a wash process, is it cold cycle or dry clean only?
Yeah, so most of them, depending on the fabric, it's mainly depending more so on the fabric. But if the fabric is able to withstand heat, then yes, it can go through the washer. And we do recommend people to just line dry their clothes. But yeah, if they put on delicate, it should be fine.
Very cool. Well, how would you describe your target customer, or maybe a better way of putting this is, who do you dress? Who do you design for?
Sure. I'm still figuring that out myself, being such a new designer, and I'm always surprised at the range of ages that love our clothes every time we do in-person events. So it can range from people younger than us, like the teens. Teens have really gravitated towards our clothes, and even though if it's a higher price point, they're willing to spend on an item that they know who made it and the intentions behind it. And also, so we've had some customers at Momo that I'd meet that feel like my mom or my auntie, and are really appreciating our clothes. And that's also really a special thing too, because I'm just amazed that our clothes can translate to a wide age range of audiences. And besides that, with our hand painted pieces, I do want people to have these like statement pieces and feel very special, and that they're kind of a one of a kind piece, because each one is hand painted in that way. So yeah, people who want to kind of stand out, or also just we have something special and handmade is kind of our target audience at the moment.
That's very cool. So are people able to connect with you with requests and do commissions? Can they come to you and say, I'd love a hibiscus or something like that?
Sure. We haven't, I feel like I haven't done that in so long because of this whole lockdown. But yeah, before at the salon, I would have people come up to me and say, oh, I'd love to have this jumpsuit with pockets. And then I'd shop with them together at the fabric store to pick out their favorite fabric. And then I would create a sketch. And basically, it's fun to do the sketch and then compare the person to be like the reveal, So we have done those items. I've done some kids' clothes too for family who are like, I'd love this in like a kid size, and then I'd have to like work with that. Kids' clothes is very tricky, but it's fun, and it's really cute to see them wear a like mini version of something we've made.
Yeah, that is very, very cool. And I just want to pause for a moment for anyone listening. It's an incredibly, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, pockets are such a big deal. You do not know how much you need pockets until you do not have them. So
yeah, and sturdy pockets as well. Make sure they're not like, just like falling down and like creating weird creases.
Exactly. Especially moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to pivot just a little bit and talk about. You did mention kids. How did that come about? And is that an area that you're looking to expand into?
We shall see. I do. I always love working with kids. I did that a lot in my past jobs, but that was mainly through friends and family that we've done that for. If there is a need, then we will definitely consider that moving forward. But it's hard to say. We kind of just work with for me, for our design process, it's like myself and my co-designer, who's also named Caitlin. We're both just thinking about things that we would want in our closet and then going from there. So it's hard to think in like the mind of like a child and thinking about like what's their neck, what's the trends in kids fashion, at least from our point of view. But if someone reaches out to us and wants something that we made for an adult in the child size, then maybe we will think about expanding it in that kind of fashion.
Well, I'll tell you, parents will tell you right off the bat, the biggest trend in kids fashion is machine washable.
Oh, right. That's true. That's what I've heard. Actually, one of the ladies that we've made clothes for, she said that it has to be sturdy and also like, I think she said like not like the buttons and stuff have to be really easy to take on and off or something like that. Like just imagine like how fast it takes putting it on and off a child too is something to consider.
Yes, yes, and having a bit extra fabric in the hem so that you can let it out as the child grows. They might go through a growth
Right.
spurt
I
over
was
3 or 4
thinking
months.
that was an idea of mine, was like maybe I could do something where it's like a dress when they're little, but then it's like a top when they're older, like one of those boxy kind of one size pieces that we have as a trend in adult fashion.
Yeah, well, and just from a practical side of things, I hope whoever's listening can think about how this applies as well. Anything that you can do that grows with a child is a really big deal. And I have so many friends who are parents, newly parents, who are learning this the hard way, and they might go out and spend $1,000 on a couple of outfits, only to have to replace them in about 6 months because they don't fit anymore.
Right. That makes
So
sense.
having a luxury approach does require that. If at all possible, what you do produce can grow with your child.
Right.
Um, but I do want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about sort of the last few months, and in particular, you mentioned that production is shut down. So you've done a 180-degree pivot to face masks, and as the state begins to open up and face masks are still requested, they're not required everywhere.
Encouraged.
They're yeah, they're strongly encouraged, but there will still be a demand for them in the weeks ahead. But after that, thinking maybe 6-8 weeks from right now, what does the future look like for you?
It's hard to say. I feel like it's hard to plan out something like that because we don't know when things are going to happen. But I can say that we do want to get back into creating our personal pieces. Like we have a bunch of ideas. We have an ideas list going of like all the stuff we want to make, but we've had to put pause because of the production we've made for the face masking and whatnot. But hopefully we'd be getting more of our newest pieces up and running on our online shop. And if the stores are allowed to be open and it can be a safe environment, we could start incorporating some of our pieces back into the shops that we are currently selling at. And that is mainly how it looks like. I would hope that people are interested in buying more as lockdowns are becoming a little lessened, and they can go out and support the local businesses that are newly opened, and that is what we're hoping for. And I guess because people probably don't have the mindset of buying a fancy new outfit, our vision for our next few pieces are going to be comfy, functional, with pockets, and kind of going with work from home vibes still.
Very cool. And I did just want to plant a bug. I don't know if you've thought about this moving forward yet, but what's been an upward trend for about the past decade, and we've seen it with a small selection of very highly visible designers throughout the world, but it's become more of the norm, especially now, especially because it's difficult to connect with customers. That the designer is, especially in this case for the independent communities, the designer is much more of the show person, and they are, the expectation is that they have social media and that they're producing and that something about the brand story keeps pushing forward. I think it would be a really fun idea if there was a show, IGTV, TikTok, I don't care where it is, YouTube, You may consider having the Kaitlin and Kaitlin show, and just having, having it be about your brand and about your process, and just stuff that your customers love. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you're aware of the channel from John Krasinski,
Yes, I do know.
Some News. It's been about the most amazing show that I've seen in a very long time. Very lighthearted, but very, very meaningful, very poignant, and very timely. And I think that we need people to rally behind, and we need reasons to celebrate.
Yeah.
And so I just to drop a little
Thank
nugget there. Consider the Kaitlin show. Call it whatever you want. I'll tune in. I'm very.
we always like that's funny because Caitlin and I we first made our brand name. It's kind of a tweak or a base off of like if we had like a band name. This was a long time ago, drinking some wine and talking, and we had a little jam session, and so we've always said like, oh, we should start a little video YouTube thing or something, but we are more of ideas people, so we need someone to be like, I'm gonna video, and then they can just videotape and see what happens.
Well, definitely get in touch with Lexi, and she's started her own beauty channel, and is very, very good, and wonderful content. And I think if there's anyone in the area that can help out with that, Lexi's very, very good. And yeah, since you two are already introduced, it would just shoot her a text, and well, shifting gears just a little bit. I did want to ask you a couple of questions as it pertains to your business, but also think of it in terms of maybe personal growth. And a lot of times, obstacles are blessings in disguise, because they give us that opportunity to wrestle with things and to challenge our preconceived notions and to move forward. I'm curious, what are the biggest struggles that you've dealt with so far as a small business owner?
I guess it's always hard to start off with being a newer small business or just starting out, I guess you could say, is this world is, or this world in fashion is really become based upon social media and marketing in that way, and it's kind of tough starting out as a designer. And I think that was kind of like the hardest part. It takes so much time to do posts and to like curate it and make it your brand aesthetic and create themes. And that has been, I think, one of the harder parts. It's enjoyable to see the result, but for me, that's the hardest part, because I feel like then I don't have as much time to focus on making more product. And so starting out, I guess, having to put all the hats on is the main struggle, and you can get overwhelmed.
I definitely agree with that. And there's a lot of marketing agencies and creative agencies out there that specifically work with small business, and many of them reach out via email because you got stuck on a list somewhere, and so there's that lack of a personal connection. What would it take? What would the tipping point be for a creative agency to get in touch with you, for you to actually want to do business with them, to help grow your brand and take care of the marketing?
Sure. I think if we are it's hard to say. I think that would start when we feel like our business is really growing and it's at the point where we want to dedicate all our time, because currently, before this all happened, the shutdown happened, Caitlin and I were working part-time jobs. I was working at both of the stores I was selling in and trying to make my clothes and start my brand. So I think there is, hopefully soon, there will be a point where Caitlin and I are devoting all of our time to our brand and just going for it and seeing how it plays out. That would be the point when we're bringing in more marketing because we have more time to really focus and move forward with our brand. So that would be, I guess, the tipping point is going all in.
Yes, and it's scary because there's a financial commitment and there's a ton of risk involved, and there's, in many cases, no safety net at all. And so, depending upon how you form your business, if it's a sole proprietorship, which you should never do, FYI, yeah, depending upon how you want to scale, if you want to get investments, does it need to be an S corp? Very yada yada yada. But the point,
right, we've been kind of playing with ideas like if we wanted, in a dream world, would we want to open a storefront? Would it be a lifestyle curated brand, or just us, or a collective? So we've been playing with the ideas, and once we make the decision on what's best for ourselves, then we can go ahead with hiring on once we have the funds and the support.
Very cool. Well, I want to shift gears to opportunities. And, we sort of looked at the next 6 to 8 weeks, and they're uncertain, and you're not entirely sure the path forward just yet. But what would an ideal situation look like?
Sure. We do have a pop-up coming up in June, which is our it was supposed to be in person, the Full Moon Market in Capitol Hill, but it's going to be a virtual pop-up. So that's going to happen the second week of June. So that's what we are prepping for. But besides that, once the stores open, we'll be bringing more stuff in. And if we are able to, eventually, we were hoping to open a storefront. But we shall see. That's all kind of in the unknown gray area because of how things would pan out with customers coming in or not. So we have a lot of maybe things floating around, but we'll hope to do pop-ups and integrate ourselves back into the local shops we are in now.